Spiky Bits.
Hey everybody, MBG here today to talk about the newest kit from Games Workshop, the Knight Errant and Knight Paladin Titans. Everybody's talking about these things, like how they think they're going to affect 40k and what they're going to do for the game, and are they going to be allowed in normal games and things like that. And I just wanted to get on here, and I saw Reese had a really good article on Bella Lost Souls the other day called of Knights and Men, and I really enjoyed the article. But I think it lacked in certain areas where it comes to super heavies. And you know, one of the things right off the bat, everybody's worried about the D weapon close combat attacks. And I don't think a lot of people realize that this thing actually has two D weapons, because when it explodes, it's going to explode with a D weapon as well in the explosion. We'll get to that in a few minutes here. So I just wanted to kind of go over like some of the general stuff and stat-wise about the Knight Errant and the Knight Paladin itself, and then kind of get into kind of some of the things I think people are missing, and go over why I think this is such a good kit. Okay, first off, the Knight Titan, it has weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 4, strength 10, its front armor is 13, side 12, its initiative 4, has 3 attacks on the charge, and 6 hit points. So it's almost as resilient as a Land Raider, but not quite as super heavy in its own right, because a Land Raider has 4, and like a super heavy like a Baneblade has 9 hull points. So it's still pretty good, but it's still not super amazing. It does have the Ion Shield, which is really cool. It gives it a 4+ invulnerable save, and you get to pick the facing at the start of the enemy's shooting phase, which is really cool because you don't know exactly where the shots might be coming from until they appear, and then you set your shield and you're good to go. The Knight also comes armed with 2 specific weapons depending on which version you take, the Paladin or the Errant, and that is basically like a longer range battle cannon that shoots 2, or a normal size range battle cannon rather, that shoots 2 shots, or the thermal cannon, which is 36-inch range, strength 9, AP1 Melta large blast, which is a larger version of a Melta gun and great against, you know, massed armored tanks and things like that, or of course high armored infantry like Terminators, for instance. So those are all great things, but I think the strength of the Knight Titan actually lies in its special rules, and let's take a look at those. And remember, these special rules are the same for all super heavy walkers out of the escalation book itself. As a matter of fact, at the bottom of the page where it describes super heavy walkers, right at the very bottom of the page, it says all super heavy walkers have these specific rules. And I have to admit, at first glance, I didn't get why it had some of these rules, and I was like, well, that's kind of redundant, it doesn't need that. But then once I started thinking about it and reading into the rules themselves, I realized that the Knight Titan may quite possibly be way better than everybody's giving it credit for. So the first rule it has is Fear, of course, Hammer of Wrath, Invincible Behemoth, it has Move Through Cover, Relentless, Smash, and Strike Down. We're going to take a look at these in order and kind of not explain the rule itself, but just go over a few of the things that make that rule so good when applied to the Knight itself. The first rule I want to talk about is Relentless. Relentless is great for this model because it can shoot and assault even after shooting ordnance, which doesn't necessarily say you can do being a super heavy walker, so that's good. Smash. I have to admit, when I saw Smash special rule on this particular model, I was like, well, that's kind of stupid. It's already AP2, it's strength D, or whatever, strength 10. Like, what's going on? And then I read the rule itself, and I realized that Smash confers that anything with the Smash special rule allows you to reroll failed armor penetration rolls. Well, the armor penetration rolls itself, you can just choose to reroll it whether it passes or fails. So that's actually super good when assaulting other walkers or tank shocking them, which we'll get to in a minute. Invincible Behemoth rule is really good because it's, you know, it's things that would normally remove a vehicle from play, such as the explodes result on the damage table, now just do D3 hull points. Things like psychic weapons, which really don't affect this, it would if it was a gargantuan creature, or D weapons themselves don't automatically remove it from play. You have to roll on the specific chart, so that's always good. It's got Hammer of Wrath, which one attack at strength 10, hitting generally on 3s against most stuff, is super good. So it's gonna, when it charges a vehicle or another Knight itself, it's probably, if you roll decent, gonna get at least a whole point off it, if not an explodes result on normal vehicles. It has Fear, and I think that the thing about Fear is people forget you check for that at the start of each subphase, which is super good. So you roll a leadership check. If your opponent loses that check, then they are reduced to weapon skill 1, which basically means they're going to be hitting you on 5s for the most part in combat. which is super good because most things could wreck this in combat, quite possibly, if they have high enough armor and if they swing before initiative 1, which is also another point I'm going to get to here shortly. The big rule that I think people are forgetting about this particular kit or this particular model is the strike down special rule, which applies to its shooting attacks, which at a cursory look doesn't seem that great, but whenever something takes a wound, an unsaved wound, or passes a save against any of these weapons in here, those models automatically have their initiative halved, and they count as moving in difficult terrain. Now granted, it doesn't affect vehicles or monstrous creatures, but still, that is super good for a lot of things that might be assaulting it in. And I'll explain, because if you're knocking things down to initiative, to having their initiative and getting them down to lower initiative values, I'll explain why that's really good against the Night Titan here in a second. So those are kind of special rules that I wanted. Oh, it also has move through cover, which is also good too. It'll never immobilize itself, not that it could because it's a super heavy walker, but it'll never lose a hull point or something for going through difficult ground. It also doesn't, have to do all these other things that are very restrictive for difficult ground on normal things. So that's a super good rule to have. So at cursory look, some of these rules look stupid, but they're actually very good, working together to try to give the Knight a little edge over everything out there. Okay, now I kind of want to go over what makes this thing so good. Of course, it is a super heavy walker, as indicated by the rule in the White Dwarf number 4 that came out 22nd of February 2014. So that being said, it's a super heavy walker. Certain rules apply to this particular model. For instance, shooting. This thing can choose to shoot at all sorts of different targets. Every gun it has can shoot at a different target. Now granted, the Paladin version, I believe, only has 3 guns. The Knight has 2 because it has the multi-melta. I may have said that backwards. I apologize. What's good about this is the stubbers. People are saying the stubbers are stupid. The stubbers are not stupid, in my opinion, because if you go up against a lot of flying monstrous creatures or Tyranid lists that are running 8 monstrous creatures, now you have 2 weapons that can target 2 different flying monstrous creatures and perhaps get a grounding check out of one of them. And then, of course, hit it with the multi-melter, hit it with the battle cannon or something like that, or get it on the ground so you can deal with it with other, units in your army. That's really good. That's value. You like that. That's what puts this, that's what really starts, all these little things start adding together to really make this Night Titan good. Now, I was talking about this thing actually has 2 D weapons. Of course, it has the D weapon in Assault with the Ripper Saw, Rippy Blade thing. It's going to have a bunch on the charge, and then, of course, their D weapon, so not much can stand up against it. It does swing in Initiative 4, which a lot of people don't realize that's actually pretty good. However, when it explodes using the Apocalypse Mega Blast template, which is that huge 15-inch thing that you have to assemble in 4 pieces. The inner circle is generally always counts as a D weapon hit. So you got a 5-inch diameter template in the center that's always it counts as a D weapon. When it explodes, it scatters 2d6. So chances are, if you do even manage to kill this thing, you're going to have to close with it. You're going to have to get close. And then it's going to explode with the D weapon itself that scatters 2d6, 5-inch template. It's going to do a lot of work even when it dies. And I don't think a lot of people have realized that. And that's another thing that adds value. When you can run 5 of these as an army itself, it just starts getting kind of crazy. It's got 12-inch movement because it's a super heavy walker. And the one thing that I kept stressing as I was going over some of the other special abilities is that at the initiative 1 step in close combat, this thing has what's called a Stomp Attack. And I think Reese talked about this in his article, which was really good. It basically does a little river dance where it does D3 stomps, and then you consult it. You roll a D6 on the Stomp Attack chart, which is really good. But people are like, wow, whatever, it's just a Stomp Attack. Well, on the result of 2 to 5, it does a Strength 6 AP4 hit. So basically, it wounds on 2, so it's going to be wounding the crap out of whatever it stomps on. Yeah, it might not be that good, but this is in addition to its D weapon attacks. This is just free hits at the initiative 1 step. So on a D6 result at 2 to 5, it's going to be doing that many hits to anything under the template. And of course, once you put down, if you roll multiple stomps, you get to place that template 3 inches from the other template. So you can actually move it around a lot to try to get as many models or as many different squads as possible. On a roll of 6, which theoretically is going to happen 1 in 6 times, so 17 something percent or whatever it ends up being out of 100. Each model, even partially under the template, is removed from play. No save, no Eternal Warrior, no special will be back, removed from play, and get off my table. That is kind of ridiculous. So you got to keep in mind, a lot of things that can kill this Night Titan are going to be swinging at the initiative 1 step when this goes off. So simul, they may be able to kill it, but they're also going to get removed themselves. So you got to keep in mind, if you got a big bad Death Star unit that's going to roll up and just, you know, pwn this one single Knight, chances are 1 in 6 of the times you're going to have to pick up that whole unit off the table. And then what else is going to be in your army at 1850? Not a whole lot. And just the fact that you can have more than one of these Night Titans on the table, you know, increases the chances of rolling that on the chart. So it's kind of devastating if you think about it. And there's one more thing that I want to talk about that makes the Night Titan super good, in my opinion. Okay, I purposefully skipped ahead to the Stomp Attack, which basically happens in the assault phase at the initial 1 step. And I didn't really go over something that I think a lot of people have overlooked about this particular model. Remember, it's a super heavy walker, so it moves 12 inches per turn. However, it can perform a Thunder Blitz attack. And the Thunder Blitz attack is in addition to a tank shock. So you can declare a tank shock moving 12 inches with this particular model, and you also get a roll on the Thunder Blitz table. And when you look at the Thunder Blitz table, you'll notice that it's eerily similar to the Stomp table itself. So, you know, 1 in 6 of the times you roll a D6. So 2 to 5, it does a D6 strength 6 hits at AP 4. So against normal troops, it's going to be wounded on 2s. It's still pretty good. On a 6, it does 2 D6 strength 10 AP 2 hits. I don't know about you, but 2 D6 strength 10 AP 2 hits is pretty devastating for mostly anything in the game to take 2 D6 of them, which is an average of 7, of course. That's kind of ridiculous. And that is in addition to the actual tank shock attack itself. So a 12-inch movement, this thing gets a +1 attack, or it gets a +1 to its strength. It counts as, you know, it's over armor 10, so it gets +3 to that, and +3 to movement. So you're looking at a full 12-inch move, you're getting a strength 8 tank shock ram against any armored vehicles, which is pretty ridiculous. But there's also a rule that you get to re-roll an extra D6 as well on the Thunder Blitz table. So against vehicles, on a roll of 2 to 5, you're going to be getting D6 more armor pen against those vehicles, which is kind of crazy. So pretty much, you can move 12 inches, have a reasonable chance to take out any piece of armor in the game, still shoot, still assault, and remember, you can shoot at different targets, still assault, still have a chance to pick models up off the table, which is kind of ridiculous in and of itself. So you're probably wondering by now, after bringing up all these points, how the heck do you kill this thing? Well, I mean, it's not exactly clear how hard this thing is to kill. I mean, it does have a decent weapon skill, a decent initiative. It has the 3 attacks base at D. It can be buffed by psychic powers, like obviously the divination chart comes to mind. And it has 6 hull points, which, you know, like I said, it's a little bit better than Land Raider, but not quite a Baneblade yet. I think the easiest way to try to take it out is obviously in close combat with high initiative, high strength attacks, or spamming strength 7 or higher shooting at it. Of course, you know, it's D weapons as well would do work to it. Melta bombs would be great for taking it out. However, you apply those at initiative 1 step and you run the risk of being stomped as well. Same thing with hammers, power fists, all that nifty stuff is going to have to hang in there past the initiative 1 step. So it's going to have to take some strength D hits, as well as risk, you know, just the possibility of even being picked up from the Stomp Attack itself. And if you think about it, the Stomp, on the result of a D6, or of a 6 on a D6, you remove them from play. But the kicker is, you get D3 Stomp Attacks. So D3, the average is basically 2, and you get, you know, D6 on that. So it's almost a 1 in 3 chance in a combat, if you roll average, that your big bad unit will get picked up, your enemy's unit will get picked up off the table because of a result of a 6 on the Stomp chart. It's kind of ridiculous, that fact right there. So just think about that before you decide to field a Night Titan or go up against one, because there is a lot of tactics involved with actually both playing and playing against these things.
Spiky bits.